Okay, I'm Bryce Keller. I'm an attorney here in Ohio, and I've written Governor Kasich's series of letters, and this is a letter to explain to him why I've written him a bunch of letters. Okay, Governor Kasich, why have I written you these letters? I believe that marijuana/hemp prohibition is a human rights crisis of epic proportions. I am making a public record. We read in primary school, high school, college, and law school of many civil rights issues and injustices of the past, where we were shocked to read of leaders who seemingly did not want to do anything or were uninformed. I am struggling to believe that any politician today can honestly state that they are still considering where they stand on the issue. That being said, I have great respect for you and the office of the governor, and wish to ensure you have an official notice of the information required to act accordingly. I understand that some voters, donors, and the like may be pressuring political leaders to continue resisting change. Although the governor's office clearly wants to defend the Constitution and faithfully enforce the laws, I understand that doing the right thing has consequences. This way, now your office has official notice, on the public record. The office of the governor has immense power, both to take affirmative action and discretionary authority to cease oppressive actions. These letters may establish a basis for a prosecuendo or mandamus action in the Supreme Court. The thrust, however, is to gently encourage the office of the governor to do the right thing. The question is really one of which side of the story do we choose in the history books. I choose to be on the side of freedom, access to medical care, the free market, and fair policing. All the best, Bryce Keller. To explain to the anybody who's watching this on YouTube why it was important for me to, why I feel like I wanted to write that letter, is that um, inaction by our governments, by our government of the various state and at the national level, has become kind of the thing to do. Just wait, and that creates a situation where um, nothing gets done until big business chooses to make something happen, and then the advantage in promulgating those rules often goes to the big business that paid for the change in the law. And that's maybe perceived, maybe real, I don't know. The point is that a lot of times there is a reduction in the faith of the democratic process because people in the incentive for a politician to act is it, it it's actually more like the incentive is to not act. So um, I was clearly identifying in a public record, when you write a letter to the governor's office and put them on notice of a thing that's happening in their state, it creates a public record, and if you notify the governor's office or any office of government, and that government office refuses to take action when they should, then you can file a writ of prosecuendo or a writ of mandamus, uh, having requiring an executive to do something or not do something. The likelihood that the Supreme Court will actually do anything on that is not very good in the short term, and likely the legislature will act accordingly before that, or maybe even the governor on related to um, the political pressure of the issue, and you know, in part receiving official notice in my letters, but more likely the hundreds of other letters that they received, not my letter in particular, but the fact that me and so many other people are writing letters and such, would mean that probably some action would happen. But at the same time, the it just goes without saying that you should establish a track record of official notice, and um, if these constitutional violations continue, say, um, beyond uh, the next legislative session, or there is um, a doubling down of increasing drug enforcement despite the scientific data, or um, willful um, type of resistance to the end of prohibition and stuff, having the official offices. I mean, um, just for example, I know that experts have testified on marijuana issues to the Ohio legislature. We've had a forum before the Supreme Court, and now there's an official record from the law office that I started long ago towards the governor's office. So the three-part government is all on notice, and inaction by the government would mean that eventually uh, somebody would say the buck stops here. And I understand that while um, there is Governor Kasich is I don't know how you I personally think he's a pretty decent governor, um, but uh, the point is um, Ohio's kind of resistant to change. It has political implications nationwide, and it is not in an off year like Kentucky or whatever, and the likelihood that um, we're just not likely to see Governor Kasich go out there and root for them to let's change marijuana right now, because his voters don't necessarily um, come out in droves to support marijuana reform. The Republican voters don't. So anyway, we're just putting the whole of the Ohio government on notice about marijuana reform, and then hopefully um, eventually someone will decide the buck stops here, and it will just be a whole lot of it's not my responsibility. But when it comes right down to it, marijuana prohibition is unconstitutional, and the buck's got to stop somewhere. And so yeah, so that's that. That's another letter to the governor. All right, thank you.